So my dear friends, we're going to do a little from last time, just a little review, and then we'll go straight to א-2. Tonight is the last shiur for this year. Next Wednesday night is Rosh Hashanah. So the next year will be the Wednesday between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is next year. So I'm sorry to disappoint you, but you have to wait for next year. So we spoke about a very strange thing. The pasuk "Shchora ani ונאוה" means I am black, but I look beautiful. And so we got into this whole concept of called, what does it mean, black and beautiful? Like, how does it work? Because black, in the sense, is trying to say it's not so beautiful, and yet you're telling me it is beautiful. So there's something you're trying to tell me. So we got into this concept called white fire and black fire. He uses in Kabbalah, esh shchora al gabe esh levana. What is black fire? What is white fire? So we said, before we get into what's black fire and white fire, we want to get into the concept of letters and words. And we got into this whole concept, where does words come from? Like when I speak, I pronounce words, I pronounce sentences. Who puts that into my vocalization to utter those words? Because you need 5 different parts of your vocalization to work at the same time. The lips, the teeth, the tongue, the throat, the palate. This is what makes words. In Kabbalah, each one of these 5 emanate different letters, like Aleph, Hey, Ches, Ayin is from the throat, Beis, Vav, Mem, Pei is the lips, Lamed, La, La, La is the tongue. So I'm giving you just a few examples. Gimel, Yud, Chav, Ches is the palate. So the point here is that each one, so who tells you to move all these organs, so to say, and pronounce the words? Like, how do you get it to work? So he says that you know where the letters come from etzem hanefesh, your neshama. Your neshama is full of letters. What does letters mean there? Letters means vehicles to carry out expressions. Just like words carry thoughts. Why do you have a word like Baruch? Means in this sequence, if you put a bet, a reish and a vav and a chaf, you'll have blessing. If you put it together in that order. So the idea of a letter is like to carry a concept, to carry a message, to carry a word. So when the soul wants to express a feeling, wants to express a thought, it needs words to carry it. And we spoke about 2 types of words, words in your mind and words in your expression of verbalization. The words in your mind are much higher level than the words that you express verbally. Because in the mind, the words are not so chomer. Chomer means they're not so materialistic. And one word could contain a lot more thought than one word when I utter the word in dibur. So one thought, let's say I'm thinking about one idea, one concept, has, let's say, 2 or 3 words, but that concept, if I want to express it in verbalization, I need a lot of words. So that means in thought, in your world of thought, the letters and words there are more refined and more higher level, that they carry more content in short words, because it's just a thought. Then when I want to take the thought and bring it into words, I need a lot more words to explain that thought. But even thinking, I need to have letters and words to think. If I don't have words or letters, there's nothing to carry my thought. So where does it come from? From your neshama, your nefesh. is full of letters, and it uses the thought and the words to express it. So you don't even have to think or even have a thought of how do I say a word. It automatically, if you want to say a word, everything is going to automatically move. And we gave even the example of nikudot, which is vowels. How do you know to move your lips to pronounce it in this way, like Shema, Yisrael? So besides the letters, you have to also have the mind, what letter, how am I going to pronounce every letter? So what, I'm going to start, my mouth starts to think like what? No, it goes automatic because it comes from the etzem hanefesh, or neshama. And if your neshama wants to express itself, it just expresses itself in these letters and words. Now, why did we get into this whole thing with words and letters? Like, why do I want to tell you? Because I want to explain to you, what does it mean, black on white? That's how we got into it. Mm-hmm. Look at your paper. It has black ink on white paper. What is the black ink? It's the letters and the words. What is the white paper? It's the surface. Now, could you have letters without the white? No. Because then what is the black going to go on? So the same thing in the Torah. If you look in the Torah, there's the parchment, which we call the white fire, and then you have the letters, which we call the black fire. Without the parchment, there's no letters to write. But the parchment has no, just the plain parchment has no, there's no containing anything, it's just like infinite. There's no limit, it's just, we call it a white light that has no definition. Once I put letters, now I'm making already, okay, now it's a yud, it's a mem, it's already limiting it to that letter. So when Hashem created the world, there's two worlds that Hashem created. Gan Eden, the Olam Haba, and this world. Which letter did Hashem use to create Gan Eden? Yud. Now how small is Yud? It's the smallest letter of the alphabet. So that means Hashem used such a minute letter, which we call the black ink, to make this infinite Gan Eden. Because we spoke about Gan Eden is worth to suffer 70 years in this world to get 1 minute of Gan Eden. So Gan Eden is not small potatoes. It's pretty infinite feeling of good, and you feel comfortable in Gan Eden. But it's all from that little yud, which is not even infinite compared to God. You know what I'm saying? So the yud is the black fire, and then the or and sof is like, call it the white fire. You understand the concept, the white and black? So we're soon going to get to what's this whole purpose. So let's go now to page 20. Yeah, page 20? Oh. It's like 6 lines from the top. Od bet. It's the second paragraph. You see it? Mm-hmm. Before we start, I just want to tell you there's a scientist that invented the concept of relativity. You ever heard of relativity?
Yes.
Relativity means that everything is relative. So, is it dark? Is it light? Is it moving? Is it standing? Well, it's relative to what? So, in this next paragraph, we're going to read a very strange thing. In our world, when you say it's dark, what does it mean when it's dark? So there's no light, but let's take in a concept, in like ideas. This idea is very dark to me. When you say this idea is dark to me, what does it mean it's dark to you?
Negative. Void of vocalization.
No, so negative would say this idea is like a bad idea. Dark doesn't have to be a negative. When we say dark, it means we can't understand it. It's like blurry. So a lot of times I learn something and I say it's dark. I don't get it. It's too like above me. When I say it's light in my mind means, oh, I got it. It's like the idea is shining in me. The deeper something is, and the higher it is, it's darker for us. In other words, the more lofty it is, it becomes more fuzzy and more blurry until it can become like tzimish, like dark. It's like I feel like I don't know what, I have no idea. The lower it comes to us, the more it's bright, it's light. Get it? So there's an interesting thing we do every day when we put on the hand tefillin and the head tefillin, which we're going to read in a moment. Which tefillin is the higher level of holiness? Your head tefillin or your hand tefillin? Which is the higher level? Like much more lofty level. The Torah says the head for a few reasons. One is the head is on your head, and hopefully your head is in a higher level than your hand is. But also the head tefillin has a shin on the box itself on both sides. It's 4 compartments. It represents a very high level. So when you say the blessing in the morning, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam yotzer or uborei choshech. Hashem creates light and He creates darkness. So when you say Yotzer Or, you touch your hand tefillin and you kiss it. When you say Borei Choshech, you touch your head tefillin and you kiss it. So that means light is my hand tefillin and dark is my head tefillin. Why would I say my head tefillin is darker? Because since head tefillin is such a high level, for me, the higher something is, the darker it is for me. That's the way we see it. But now let's look how Hashem sees it for a minute. Let's turn it upside down. Hashem is infinite, and the further you go away from Hashem, it gets more limited, more concealed, more limited, more concealed. So for Hashem, the further something is, it's dark, and the brighter something is, it's light. So you understand the opposite? So for Hashem, the more you're closer to Hashem, the more light it is. The lower something is, the more physical or more limited, it becomes dark. For us, that's light, because the more limited, the more we can understand it, the more we can connect to it. For us, the holier and more godly, it's darker. So you understand the relativity here?
Yeah.
There's another thing in Chassidus called yesh me'ayin. You know what yesh me'ayin means? Yesh me'ayin means the way Hashem created the world, there was nothing before Hashem created the world. It's not like He took something and now made a world. There was nothing even to take. There was a famous debate between the scientists and God. The scientists said to God, we don't need you anymore because we could already create our own, we could clone, we know how to do everything our own. So God said, okay, no problem, take whatever. So they start to take earth. God said, no, that's mine. I need you to create from nothing that I made. You have to make everything from your scratch. So they start to take air. No, that's mine. I made that. You have to take something that doesn't... You're getting what I'm trying to say? Anything that we try to make has to be created from something that exists. We're just changing the form. And we're mixing different energies to make something. But it's already something that's there. Hashem, when He created the world, there was nothing. There was just Hashem. For us, it's hard to understand because we're living in a world that, what do you mean? How could you make something from the nothing? That's called yesh me'ayin. Ayin means it was pure God. And now God had to make, He wanted to make a yesh. So how does God take from an infinite God and make a yesh? He conceals Himself. Conceals means puts a cover. The more God covers himself, the more the light becomes more condensed, that it can start to become more chumri, more coarse, and to slowly get to creating a spiritual world, and then creating the four spiritual worlds, and then creating this physical world. It sounds like a chain of descent, like going down, down. So for Hashem, how does Hashem look at our world? Does he see our world as an yesh or an ayin? When God looks at us, does he see us as a yesh, or he sees us as we're nothing?
No, yesh.
The way God sees us, not the way we see.
Nothing.
We are yesh, and the source that made us is ayin. We don't connect to what the energy that's making us. It's for us. It's like nothing. Hashem is just the opposite. The true yesh is Hashem. We're nothing in Hashem's perspective, because for Hashem, what really exists is Hashem.
Sure.
Everything else is minute. Is nothing. It's all part of Hashem.
But it's going to change.
That what?
Is it going to change when Hashem is making this as a dwelling place?
Yeah, but it's when Hashem reveals himself, what happens? You all of a sudden see the way Hashem sees it, that everything in this world doesn't have its own yeshut, its own existence. It's all an extension of Hashem. The way we see the world now, everything has its own independent existence. This exists on its own. Everything exists on its own. The way Hashem sees it, he doesn't see this exists as independent. He sees it's all part of God. We see this as a yesh, and God has this like energy that's foreign, like ayin. The way Hashem sees this, he sees this as total nothing. It's all part of Hashem, and he's the yesh. He's the true existence. The reason I'm giving you all this concept is when you say light and dark, or black and white, because we're speaking about you're dark but you're beautiful. Dark and white and black, it's all relative. So for us, what's dark is for Hashem light. And what for us is light is for Hashem dark.
And at the same time, dark.
And by the way, I want to tell you, this doesn't have to be with Hashem. This can be with a teacher and a student. Or let's say a big doctor and he's training, what's it called? The new intern, right? So for a doctor or a teacher, he sees an idea in his mind clear. It's clear, he has it. Now he has to teach the student. So he has to take this brilliant concept and he has to bring it down to this student's level. So he has to condense it and put it down so the student can comprehend what is the teacher trying to tell me, like something deep. So the lower and the more he condenses it, it becomes more chumri, more like, so for the teacher, it's dark for him. But for the student, it's bright. Now he understands it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I want to learn Talmud with someone, and you're learning like a deep tosfot, like a very deep, and you happen to understand the Tosfot beautiful. Now the student has no idea what you're talking about. So you want to bring it down to that level, so you have to like condense it and condense it and condense it. So for you, you're making it darker and darker, but for the student, it's becoming brighter and brighter because he's starting to understand it.
What you doing now?
No, but I'm just giving you an example. You understand?
Yeah.
So you're getting when I'm going to say white fire and black fire, it's going to be relative. That's why I'm saying this whole examples. Everything is relative, which is true. It's so true. For, it's relative to this is dark, but relative to this, it's light. Relative, and as you go up higher and higher, it changes. So the lower level of the higher is dark for the higher, but it's bright for the lower. You know, there's an expression in Talmud. What's the expression when a father says to another father, he says, my youngest daughter should be married to your youngest son. Let's say, like, make a shidduch, right? The problem is, the father that has the daughters has, let's say, 2 or 3 wives. In those times you could have, and he has daughters from each wife. So is it the youngest of the oldest wife or the youngest of the youngest? So when I say my youngest daughter, what does it mean my youngest? The youngest of my first wife or the youngest of my youngest of the younger? And the Talmud goes into all kinds of, or I say my oldest daughter, the oldest of my younger wife or the oldest of my older wife. So it's relative. What does younger mean? What does older mean? When you say to someone, you know, you look old.
When you say my youngest, is the like when you're taking all the kids that you have, you're taking the one that...
The youngest. Okay, so the halacha is it's the youngest. Well, when you say to someone, I'm old, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Relative, because he is very young compared to someone that's 120. But to compare to us, he's very old, meaning...
Come on.
I don't mean this.
What is it? Nourish guys.
We have it.
Yeah. But I'm not trying to say
I know,
anything.
no, I take it.
I'm just bringing out the point.
The way you take it.
It's everything is relative. Are you old? Are you old? Are you young?
It's dark.
Yeah, he looks at it as light. I'm looking at it as dark, right? But the truth is that it is relative. So your child that's, let's say, 10 years old looks at you as, wow, you're so old. Okay? Once your grandfather is looking at you, you're so young. So are you old or young? Well, it depends. To the child, you're old. To the grandfather, you're young. So is it light or dark? Well, it depends. From Hashem's perspective, this world is dark. From our perspective, this world is light. So is my hand feeling light or my head feeling dark? Well, my head feeling is very high. So for me, that's dark. My hand feeling, that's lower, so that's light.
Is it Rashi or Rambam?
Rabbi Mordechai. So let's read it inside. You ready?
Yeah.
V'hinei kachol hamashal, page 20, 6 lines from the top. L'mayla barin se baruch hu. This whole concept of black and white and dark and light, we're going to now take it in the spiritual worlds. Kehine gilu hasagas and Hashem goes alavaya. This that a soul could understand Hashem, nifla, even though for a soul to understand Hashem it's a great joy. The only thing we could comprehend of Hashem is the letters, because we can never understand Hashem himself. Only when Hashem condenses himself in a letter, we could start to understand. Which letter did Hashem use? Well, there's 2 worlds called Gan Eden HaElyon, which is called Oisiyot HaMachshava. Remember we spoke about thought? And Gan Eden HaTachton, which is Pchinas Dibur. Where is these 2 Gan Edens? So you remember we spoke about 4 worlds: Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. Hine v'zel Barosif. That's it. Barosif is Bria. That's Pchinas HaMachshava. That's Gan Eden HaElyon. So you have Atzilut. The second world is called Bria. That's called Machshava. That's Gan Eden HaElyon. That's the higher level of Gan Eden. Over there, their level is they understand Hashem's letters, but the letters of thought, which is higher than the letters of words. So in other words, we can only grasp anything from God if it goes through a letter. A letter means it's condensed so much that it becomes a letter. But there's 2 levels of letters. There's thought letters and there's word. Thought is much higher than word. So Gan Eden HaElyon, the soul is in Gan Eden HaElyon, means he's enjoying the radiance of Hashem through the letters of the thought of Hashem, which is Gan Eden Ha'elyon, which is Bria. That's how Hashem puts himself in thought. So it's higher than Gan Eden HaTachtain, which is Yitzartev, which is Dibur. And Afasisiv is Olam HaMaisa, Olam HaZeh HaGashmi. So that's you understand? So your soul could only comprehend Hashem if Hashem condenses himself into letters or words. Look at the whole Torah. It's all letters and words of Hashem. But he puts himself to such a low degree that it becomes a word. And we speak about whatever the Torah speaks about. That's how letters are expressed in words, Gan Eden HaTachton. But then there's Hashem's thought, which means Hashem puts himself in letters of thought, which is Bria. So you understand the two levels of Gan Eden, the higher level and the lower. Now where do you end up going? Like your soul, which Gan Eden do you go? To the lower level Gan Eden? Or to the higher level Gan Eden? It depends.
We came from there, no?
No, but the question is when you go to Gan Eden, where are you going to fit?
Through Hebron.
Meaning, what is your level of comprehension? Do you comprehend the level of thought of Hashem, or do you comprehend the level of words of Hashem? So it depends on the person. Like some people, they learn Chumash, the 5 books of the Torah, they understand that. Some people learn Mishnah, which is the laws of the Torah. Some people go into the Talmud, which is already... Talmud is Bria, Gan Eden Ha'elyon, because it's all intellect. Yetzira, which is the word, is more like Mishnah, Halacha, Rambam, Chumash, So a person that's his capacity of his neshama can't understand Talmud, so you're going to put him in Gan Eden Ha'elyon, he'll be suffering, because it'll be like black, because he can't understand it, so they put him in Gan Eden HaTachton. My grandfather, Olav Hashalom, used to say that every soul, when they finish their life on this world, they go straight to Gan Eden. But listen to this. If in your lifetime you weren't into learning Torah, you weren't into this, so imagine a guy that a whole day he skis. He goes skiing. And then after he skis, he drinks a little mashka, whatever. And then he watches a video. And then you tell this guy, listen, you have to sit in a yeshiva a whole day and listen to the teacher teaching Torah. You know how much pain it is for him? He doesn't even know what is going on. He's never going to suffer. So he says, every soul goes to Gan Eden. The question is, are you ready for Gan Eden? Because if you're not, you're suffering just to sit there and not understand what's going on, and you see everyone's enjoying it. That suffering makes you eventually connect and eventually enjoy Gan Eden. You understand? So it's not like God makes you suffer. He makes you sit through something you weren't used to.
Some of us get connected.
Here, right, exactly. No, all of us, when we learn Torah, we connect. When you learn Talmud, you're learning Gan Eden Ha'elyon, the higher level. It's God's thought. Kabbalah is Atzilut.
It's higher?
Higher. That's what we're doing now. This is Kabbalah. Yeah. You're learning Atzilut. Can you imagine? What, such a high level. You must be higher, like Moshe Rabbeinu.
That's why I feel like it's Balagan.
It's Balagan. It's Choshech. It's dark. He's right. When someone learns Kabbalah, it's dark. Because it's very hard for us to really see it. We have like this vague understanding about light and Chachma and Bina and Das and the 10 Sfirot. Mm-hmm. It's concept that we don't, this I see, this I understand. If I learn, let's say the Chumash, and it says in the Torah that Avram took Sarah, I understand it, it's clear. But if I go into the Kabbalah of Avraham, and Avram represents Chesed, and Sarah represents Gevura. Okay, it's a nice idea, but it's not always bright. So he's right. When you learn Kabbalah, it's a lot of times dark. Not because it's not higher, it's higher, but since it's higher, it's like the head of the tefillin, since it's a higher level, it's for you, it's dark. So that's why the Torah said, the Rambam says you shouldn't learn Kabbalah unless you first learn the whole Talmud. Why? Because the Talmud, at least you could understand. You walk out, you got it. It shines in you. You understand what it says. Yeah, it's hard. It's deep thought, but it's something you could. It's about arguing about property, arguing about money, arguing about marriage. The regular, laws in Torah. But you go into deep discussions about it, okay? But you walk out, you got it. You could say, I have the idea. When you finish a Kabbalah class, you don't feel you have it. It's like he said, it's like balaganish. To say, I got it, I understand Chochmah Vatzilut, it's hard to connect to, you're right. That's why don't focus in the dark too much. You have to, meaning the Kabbalah is more to spice, give you a little spice. To spice your neshama, that's what it's about. To say, I see Chochmah Vatzilut and I understand it. Moshe Rabbeinu was Chochmah Vatzilut. Avraham was Chesed Vatzilut. I mean, we can never understand it. But at least we understand in like a fog. That's the choshech. You're right. For us, this is light. This is what we see. So he says, you see the parenthesis on page 20 like this. You see it starts with ayin, mashin is bar. You see that? Mm-hmm. It's like the fourth paragraph on the right. You see the Sagrayim?
Yeah.
So he says, the Sagrayim, it's like a half circle. I don't know how you call it I thought it's parentheses. But anyways, the reason I'm saying this is, I'm going to read the parentheses, but whenever you have in Kabbalah and in Likkutei Torah parentheses, it means it's a concept that even if I don't have it, I can still understand what I'm going to say next. In other words, this 1, 2, 3, the next 3 paragraphs, even if I take it out of this section, I could still go further. But this just gives us a little spice. So I'm not going to delve in it long, because I want to finish at least this chapter.
Further explanation.
It just gives us a little more spice, a little spice. So what does he say? The af hu lashon ribuy maraba b'china reviyah shelamayim b'chinas machshava v'diba ma'isa shem rak levushim lo erin seif and b'chinas otzalin shu erin seif baruch v'atzin choydai shenu el mahaza. We say berasiv. It's a pasuk in Yeshayahu. Berasiv goes on Bria. Yitzartiv goes on Yitzira. Asisiv goes on Asiya. But there's a word af. Af asisiv. What's the af? Af is a fourth world. Which is the fourth world? Atzilut, which is above Bria, above Yitzira, above Asiya. So why do you put af by asisiv? Why is af right next to the lowest world? Why don't you put it before Bria? Af berasiv yitzatav asisiv. Why put af there? Because where do you connect to the highest world? We said, if you remember, we learned it a few times, if you want to connect to the highest, is only from the lowest. So in other words, if you want to connect to Atzilut, which you said the highest level, in this world you can connect to Atzilut. In Gan Eden they can't. Why? In this world you put on tefillin, you do mitzvot, you learn Torah, you're connecting to Atzilut. So the af, which represents the fourth world, is connected with Asisiv, because for me to connect to the highest world, I need to be in the physical world.
You have to have the action.
The action. In Gan Eden, the Elyon, it's the words of thought. Guess what? This is a massive thing, Chevra. You know that every mitzvah you do in this world, you know what you're accomplishing? I don't know if you notice. You're bringing new light in Gan Eden HaElyon and Gan Eden HaTachton and in this world. So that means when I put on tefillin, I'm bringing a new energy from Atzilut, which is the highest world, coming into Bria, Gan Eden HaElyon, coming into Yitzira Gan Eden Hatachton and coming to this world. So every mitzvah I do and every Torah I learn in this physical world, I'm adding new light in Gan Eden. So the souls that are now in Gan Eden, all of a sudden they wake up, they see new light. Well, you just did a mitzvah. And that adds new light. Go to the next column, you see on the left. What we said that Hashem created the Gan Eden with the letter Yud, right?
Yeah.
But how did He create this world? With the letter Hey. Now, why a Hey? A Hey is less than a Yud. A Yud is a higher. Why would He use the Yud to create Gan Eden and the Hey to create this world? So He says, I want to tell you why He used Hey. Even though Hey is creating this physical world, so it sounds like the physical world is lower than Gan Eden, because Gan Eden is Bria. Gan Eden is Yitzira. It's a higher level. He says, but I'll tell you a little secret. If you go in the alphabet, which letter is first, Hey or Yud?
Hey.
Hey. So Hey is a higher level than Yud. So Hashem used Yud to create Gan Eden. And He used Hey to create this physical world. So that means the lower level created Gan Eden, and the higher level creates this physical world. He says exactly. Because in this physical world, you reach much higher than in the spiritual world. So yes, in this world we don't feel the light. It's not so bright. But we have such a much bigger energy that we could accomplish here that they don't have in Gan Eden. So that's why this world was created with Hey, which is a higher letter of Hashem.
Are there mitzvahs in Gan Eden?
No.
So therefore, we are better off being here.
Of course, that's why I said to him, till
No,
100
Hashem, I'll come here.
But listen, when you get old, it takes longer to understand.
100%.
Progresses,
100%.
picked it up.
Now let's go back. And if you know that every Friday night by Mincha before Kabbalah Shabbos we say Patach Eliyahu. Now Patach Eliyahu is a section of Kabbalah. It is all that Eliyahu Navi said. He taught this, and he writes there like this: Levushin dekinas loin. God created garments, that from these garments come the souls. What does that mean? In God Himself, what He says is very simple. In order for Hashem to create souls, in order for Hashem to create angels, Hashem had to cover Himself with a garment. What do you mean cover Himself? Conceal. Because from Hashem Himself you can't create anything. Because it's infinite. So He put on these garments. What are the garments? The Yud, the Hey. And that's how He could create the world, the spirituals, the souls, and everything He created. Because He covered Himself. That's called Levushim. And now, Apiklis Menhoin, Nishmasin, by putting on garments on God, on the infinite light of God, now you could create souls. Now you could create letters. Now you could create a world. So that's how everything comes, because there's a garment that covers the infinite light of Hashem. Now look at this. Yoshes Choshech Sisrei. It's Tehillim chapter 18. What is Yoshes Choshech Sisrei? That God sitting in this dark, hidden place. What does it mean? Choshech, what is Choshech? This is what we spoke about before. Hu dava she'eini nira, boy. Something I can't see. Shum tfisa, I can't grasp. Vahasaga klal, I can't understand it. That's called Choshech for us. It's dark. I don't understand it. I don't grasp it. I don't connect to it. Vihini kol zeh mimata l'mayla. We, anything that's above us is called choshech. Masha l'mayla masaga, something that's higher, that we can understand is choshech. Pirush in a musik. We don't understand it. Kamayma yoytza or v'choshech shachoshech hu b'bria. Why is choshech in bria? Because it's lamayla me'or hagil shiritzira. So the higher something is, the more darker it is for me, because I can't understand it, and since I don't understand it, it becomes dark. So Yoshes choshech sisay means God's hidden is dark, meaning the higher you go in God, the more it's dark for us. Kibriya umachshav yitzira. Now he gives what I told you with a student in this parentheses, in this sagrayim. L'gabi ha-Talmud, for the student, hadibur shel harav nikar or v'gilui. For a student, what the teacher is teaching, that's light. Wow, beautiful. I like what my teacher is saying. Aval machshava shel harav, but the thought of what the teacher is thinking in his mind, which the student doesn't even know what the teacher is thinking in his mind. The only thing that the student relates to is the words that the teacher is teaching, not to the thought. For the student, the thought of the teacher is called choshech. But if you look at this teacher, the words that the teacher is using, that's kala choshev k'neged machshavte compared to the teacher's thought. When a teacher thinks about something in one moment, he has this tzarech l'daber zeh kama deburim. Al kein nikra etzlei, for the teacher, the machshav is called or, v'adibur is called choshech l'gabe machshava. So for the teacher, his mind is or, because that's what he sees clear. The word is already condensing his infinite thought into a word. So for the teacher, that's already choshech. For the student, the word is the light, and the thought is choshech because it's above his understanding. Turn the page of Atzilus is Chabad, yeah. Oh, okay.
It does, right?
Yeah, Chabad. Okay, so now that we got this concept, so now let's go back to the white fire and the black fire. What is the white fire and what is the black fire? So he says, Yud, Nivra Elam Haba. Hashem used the letter Yud to create Gan Eden HaElyon and Gan Eden HaTachton. Ochamashal, why did he use a Yud? Diyoy al Gabi HaKlaf, like the ink that goes on parchment. Sha'klaf HaCholok, the parchment, the smooth parchment, that's Eish Levana, that's the white fire. That represents Or Insay Baruch Hu Ba'atzaka, that's the infinite light, the less Machshava Tisabeh. So if God would not make any letters, no thoughts, no words, just God's light, for us, it will be total dark, because it will never comprehend. For God, it's pure light, it's white, like white parchment. So imagine I take a Torah scroll with no letters, and I pick it up, here's the Torah scroll. You look at it, I don't know what it's saying. It's infinite, because it's just white, it's light. So what did God do? God says, listen, I want you to get me. I'm going to condense this infinite light and make you one letter, a Yud. So now, thank God I have now a Yud, so now I can understand something. So the Yud is the black ink that condenses this infinite light into one letter so I could connect to it. So for me, it's a light. For Hashem, it's dark, because I'm taking an infinite light and putting it into such a small letter. So for Hashem, it becomes dark, but for us, that's light. You understand what I said? So look inside. Eish Levana Alalde HaYud. What's the Yud? P'chinas nekuda shechora. It's the dark dot, because a Yud is a dot, a black dot. Shemashche haklaf. The Yud makes the parchment black. Kedei liyas p'chinas gilva sagnas. So we can now start to understand something, at least the Yud. V'hine k'moi b'moshel hanal kashabolo de gilo isem achshava. When it comes to revealed letters, even though it's seichel, now, when you think of words, it's not like the words and the the thought is two different things. The words are carrying the thought. They're carrying the intellect. The same thing, the yud, when you put a yud, on the Sefer Torah, ala klaf, sha'adyoy machshes a klaf, hini adoy ba'atzmei, ini davar moshi lis nechshad na'atzmei, elo shemachshes a klaf, kedei sha'klaf yigala tmunas hayud. You hear what he's trying to say here? It's not like the black ink of the yud on the parchment is a separate thing. No. What the ink does, it takes the parchment, which is infinite, and makes now that infinite parchment could come through a letter yud. So it's extending the infinite light and limiting it so I could have it. So it's not a separate entity. It's taking the parchment and making it into something I could understand. So when I say words, the words is not separate. The word is trying to carry a thought. And when I speak, you're trying to understand it. So he says, look what he says. Even though, how do you make a yud? It's from the ink. But guess what? If you don't have parchment, can you make a letter yud?
No.
If you don't know. Any letter that doesn't have parchment surrounding it on all four sides, it's not kosher. Psula. Because the parchment, the letters is not a separate entity of the parchment. The letter is bringing out to your level a piece of the parchment that you couldn't understand till now, because the parchment was infinite, and now the letter is bringing that out to you. You get what I just said? So it's carrying the thought at least to your level. What's the parchment? It's God that has no limit. כך הנה בנמשל על די הצמצומן הרבים מסגל אור ינסי ברוך עצמי וזהו ביוד נבוא אלם הבא תענג הנשם וינסי ברוך הוא ממש. This finishes, let me say just how, a lot of times we think that when Hashem condenses himself, it's a problem because he conceals his infinite light. He conceals his true essence. But the truth is, Hashem is saying, no. By me concealing me, I'm helping you that now you could grasp something of me. Because if I wouldn't conceal me, you wouldn't grasp anything. I will be total dark. By me concealing me, Hashem says, and putting myself into a yud, at least you could connect to something from me. So the yud is taking the infinite Hashem and putting it into this limited yud, so at least I could grasp something. Make sense? Kitzur is just giving you a synopsis of the whole thing. So, v'tzimtzum zeh, hu k'mi oiseh shebenefesh, v'achach nimshach mizeh eslapshus eis machshava.
Page
23. V'hu k'inyin chakiko ksiva, k'meish gol ma'chash v'oiseh machshava atzma v'chin adiyah mesam v'klaf alavan. Kacha b'nimshal adei ois yud, shenim v'elav nimshal gal yisrael v'archu ba'atzma. So now, through the letter Yud, which Hashem created Gan Eden, what did he do with the Yud? The Yud takes a piece of the infinite light of Hashem and condenses it and brings it to your level, so now you can enjoy Gan Eden. Because if there wouldn't be Yud, you wouldn't enjoy Gan Eden because it would be infinite. And it would be dark, it would be blurry, it would be too much to the point that you wouldn't be able to handle it. I want to shut it so we can just end.